Have you ever felt that the deeper you think, the more isolated you become? That the more you understand, the less people want to listen? It's not just your imagination. History and psychology suggest that deep thinkers have always been met with resistance, not because they are wrong, but because they see what others refuse to. Throughout time, society has misunderstood and even feared those who think differently. From Socrates to Galileo, from Tesla to Schopenhauer, brilliant minds have been ridiculed, silenced, or ignored, not because they lacked intelligence, but because they made others uncomfortable. Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the most brutally honest philosophers, even argued that intelligence is not a gift but a curse, a force that isolates those who see the world too clearly. But why does this happen? Why does society resist those who think beyond the surface? The answer lies in human psychology. Imagine standing next to someone physically stronger than you. You may admire their strength, but you don't necessarily feel threatened. If you meet someone wealthier, you might envy them, but it doesn't shake your self-worth. However, when encountering someone intellectually superior, something different happens, something unsettling. Psychologists call this the mirror effect. A deep thinker does not just introduce new ideas, they reflect the limitations of those around them. And people do not easily forgive that. Even without saying a word, the presence of a highly intelligent person can make others feel inadequate, forcing them to confront their own intellectual shortcomings. This triggers a deep-rooted defense mechanism, one that makes people resist rather than engage. Unlike physical strength or material wealth, intelligence is tied to identity. Our thoughts, beliefs, and understanding of the world define us. When challenged, it can feel like a personal attack rather than an opportunity for growth. This is why intelligence, more than any other form of superiority, provokes discomfort. Instead of admiring deep thinkers, many subconsciously resist them, not because the thinker is arrogant, but because their very presence exposes the fragility of others' worldviews. This explains why history has often pushed great minds to the fringes. Their insights do not just challenge ideas, they challenge egos. And people, by nature, will do almost anything to protect their egos from discomfort. If you've ever tried to introduce a deep or complex idea into a casual conversation, only to be met with blank stares, awkward silence, or a swift change of topic, you've witnessed this phenomenon firsthand. In social settings, confidence is often valued more than intelligence. People are naturally drawn to those who project certainty, even if their ideas are simplistic. This is why charismatic but shallow thinkers gain influence, while deep thinkers who value nuance often struggle to find a broad audience. History is full of examples: populist leaders, viral influencers, and motivational speakers who thrive by telling people what they want to hear rather than challenging them to think critically. Meanwhile, those who question the status quo find themselves isolated, misunderstood, and sometimes even rejected. Modern neuroscience supports this idea. Studies show that when people feel intellectually inferior, their brain's amygdala, the center for fear and threat detection, becomes highly active. In other words, deep thinking does not just intimidate, it triggers a primal survival response, similar to the one we feel when facing danger. But why does intelligence activate the same fear circuits as a physical threat? The answer lies in evolution. For most of human history, survival depended not on being the smartest, but on being accepted by the group. Early humans thrived in tribes where social harmony meant safety. Being rejected by the group could mean death, so human brains evolved to prioritize social acceptance over intellectual pursuit. When a deep thinker enters a group, they unknowingly disrupt this tribal balance. Their presence challenges established norms, beliefs, and hierarchies, triggering the brain's defense mechanism as if facing an enemy rather than an intellectual equal. A 2021 Stanford University study found that the rejection of deep thinkers is context-dependent. In one-on-one conversations, people feel less threatened by intelligence. But in group settings, the perceived threat spikes dramatically. Why? Because social status becomes more important. People don't just react to intelligence itself, they react to how others perceive them in comparison. If someone feels outshined, they instinctively try to undermine or exclude the deep thinker to protect their social standing. This explains why deep thinkers often have meaningful private conversations but struggle in larger social settings. It's not a lack of social skills, it's the way human psychology reacts to intelligence. Several cognitive biases further reinforce this resistance. The Dunning-Kruger effect. Those with limited knowledge often overestimate their intelligence, while highly intelligent people tend to doubt themselves. This creates friction. Those who know little believe they know more than they do, leading them to dismiss deeper thinkers. Status quo bias. The human brain prefers familiar ideas over complex, disruptive truths. Intelligence often introduces uncomfortable thoughts, making people resist rather than engage. The backfire effect. When confronted with information that contradicts their beliefs, people do not change their minds, they double down on their existing views. Deep thinkers frequently encounter this resistance when introducing challenging ideas. In the digital age, social media has amplified the rejection of intelligence. Algorithms prioritize engagement over depth, meaning that controversial, emotionally charged content spreads faster than well-reasoned arguments. Simple, catchy, and often misleading sound bites outperform nuanced discussions. The more intellectual someone is, the harder it becomes for them to condense their ideas into viral-friendly content. As a result, society increasingly values entertainment over enlightenment, making it even more difficult for deep thinkers to find widespread acceptance. So, what does this mean for those who think deeply? The rejection of intelligence is not just social, it is biological, psychological, and cultural. It is built into human nature, reinforced by group dynamics, and magnified by modern technology. This doesn't mean deep thinkers should stop sharing their ideas. But it does mean they must understand the forces working against them. If society resists intelligence, what does it embrace? Comfort. A world where predictability is preferred over truth. Schopenhauer believed intelligence leads to isolation because most people seek pleasure, comfort, and social belonging above all else. Highly intelligent individuals, on the other hand, develop an insatiable drive for truth, even when it leads to discomfort. While most find meaning in relationships, entertainment, and routine pleasures, deep thinkers often see these as distractions from deeper existential questions. The result? A fundamental disconnect between intellectuals and the rest of society. Yet, despite the isolation, the world has always needed deep thinkers. They are the ones who challenge conventions, push boundaries, and drive humanity forward. Though society may resist them, it is also shaped by them. And while intelligence may be a lonely road, it is one that leads to true understanding, a pursuit that, in the end, is worth the struggle.